Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie, and this channel is chronicling my journey of living my best life with multiple chronic health conditions. I know it's been a couple weeks. I was actually rather productive the week I said I was going to upload and just didn't record, and then I've been in Gatlinburg for almost 2 weeks. I leave to go home tomorrow. So wanted to give you guys an update that is about none of that. I will make a sort of travel video about how this trip went for the next one, but this video I wanted to talk about my genetic results. They did come back and they were quite unexpected. I was not expecting anything to show up because how likely is it that a person has a genetic condition? I mean, it doesn't seem very likely, but I ended up with one variant of unknown significance, and that is for a myopathy, so a muscle issue. Even if that ends up being pathogenic, it wouldn't explain what is actually my limiting symptoms, so not exactly great. Then, well, I guess I'll say that none of the mitochondrial disorders were flagged, so I'm also not surprised about that because they can only really find about 50% of people with a genetic mitochondrial disorder at this time. We just don't know enough about genetics and how everything sort of works with how genes are expressed and what genes lead to what conditions. So they estimate about 50% of genetic mitochondrial disease can be found through genetic testing. So I wasn't really expecting that to show up. Now that that part's out of the way, they did find 2 likely pathogenic variants, and from what the genetic counselor has said via messenger, I don't go back to Philadelphia until December. Likely pathogenic means like they're like 90+% sure that it's pathogenic. And I was recommended to see specialists for both of these conditions. So instead of getting a unifying diagnosis, I just added 2 more. One of them is Antithrombin III deficiency, which is a cause of increased probability of blood clots, which could be a reason why I developed the DVT and PE after my surgery back in 2021. Even though it was listed as provoked, having the deficiency would make me more likely to develop a blood clot. And yes, the hematologist at the time did run a bunch of labs looking for reasons for the blood clot, and she did say that some of the tests would need to be redone after I was off Eliquis. Those tests were never redone. I asked her on my follow-up appointment if she was going to do them, and she said no. I asked my PCP at the time, and I just don't think she knew which test needed to be run. But Antithrombin III is one of those tests that if you're on a medication like Eliquis can appear normal even if it is low. So they recommend that I see a hematologist. I believe my PCP has put a referral in. She sounded like she did, but when I checked, I didn't see the referral, so I might just need to call the hematology department and see if they got it. The second condition is Spinocerebellar ataxia 27B, which is a late onset form of ataxia, which is not being coordinated, So fine motor issues, balance issues, stuff like that. So that could explain those issues. So I was recommended to see a specialist there, and Hopkins does have an ataxia center. Philadelphia recommended that I reach out to the neuromuscular specialist I saw to have him put in a referral. So I contacted him, and he punted me back to Philadelphia saying they can put in the referral, which makes no sense. So I did message Philadelphia back and say, hey, he punted me back to you guys, but I haven't heard from them either. I'm not all that gung-ho about seeing new doctors, so I'm not pushing the subject at the moment. But when I get home in a couple days, I may reach back out to Philadelphia and see if I can get them to respond. Then I might have my PCP put the referral in. What's frustrating is the neuromuscular specialist is actually part of the ataxia center at Hopkins. So, yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I get it. They don't like putting in referrals if they weren't the ones to do the test, but I think it's stupid. Anyway, that was the genetic results. Like I said, not really expected. I was more expecting them to maybe find things like, oh, you're at an increased risk for XYZ. But none of those type of findings showed up. Those 3 things were the only 3 findings, which again, when they do sort of genetic counseling, they want to make sure you're aware that, increased likelihood of developing like certain cancers and stuff like that might show up, just so you're like mentally prepared for that. They don't really talk about what happens when you have like multiple genetic conditions popping up. That I never expected, but it may provide some answers as to why certain things happened or are happening, what have you. But that is where things stand with that. I will keep you guys updated when I see hematology and or the ataxia center at Hopkins. The next video I will sort of talk about why it's been so long since I made a video. Obviously I've been away from home, but that doesn't negate or rule out of making a video. So I will sort of talk about what I was doing that week before I left and what this vacation, if you want to call it that, has been like. And that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys are having a good day whenever it is you are seeing this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.